The wayfinding system in Toronto is just, I'm not the first person to critique it. It is very old, they have a lot of old signs, and they are updating some of them, but it has a lot of really fundamental issues. In most Toronto subway stations, the names of the exits are based on the streets where they exit to. But in some cases, like this could be very confusing if the subway station is located on the crossroads and there's a whole bunch of exits on different sides of the road. They'll just combine all these things together and make for giant walls of text with really unclear exit signage, with a lot of the exits looking very similar. And there isn't a very clear sense of hierarchy, like exit information is mixed with stuff like amenities within the station or connecting and details. It's all just slapped together as different signs with a bunch of arrows. And a lot of the signage isn't placed in a way that accounts for sightlines, so important information will just disappear, or depending on whether you went into the hallway, you won't be able to see a certain piece of information, which also isn't very good. And the stations do have maps that are supposed to help you, but the maps are so focused on showing the layout outside of the train station and showing you where all of the exits will go to, they don't do a really good job of actually helping you find the specific exits themselves within the station. So they're not really all that useful. It sounds pretty simple, but all of these things combined don't really make for a great user experience when navigating through these stations, especially for someone who's just visiting the city for the first time, and maybe this is probably their first time at the train station. Like, I have an example. I was at, St. Patrick's Station and I had to get out at University Avenue and King Street West. That's what Google Maps was telling me to get out at. And yeah, looking through the signs, there's just a mix of like cardinal directions, street names, destinations, all kind of combined together. And to be honest, like I tried, like I was looking for the right exit, I couldn't find it. I checked the map, it was useless. So I ended up just getting out of a random exit and figuring it out outside. But I really shouldn't have to do that. That basically means the system failed in that scenario. And yeah, this is the type of thing that makes the experience not good. Like, someone might have just tried it out for the first time, it was too hard, they give up and they're like, screw it, I'm just gonna take an Uber. And you got creating more traffic congestion on the street and wasting money that they shouldn't have had to have wasted. The system should have just worked for them. But it doesn't have to be like that. Wayfinding is not exactly rocket science, like other systems have figured it out. So I found this station called Ueno Hirokoji Station. It's kind of similar to St. Patrick's in that it's located on a crossroad with a bunch of exits on different sides of the road. So it has the same issue. But unlike St. Patrick's Station, they don't call the exits the name of the crossroads of the road. So this exit A2, for example, isn't Chuo-dori East Side Route 453 South, like Toronto would have done it. Instead, it's just called exit A2. And this is actually pretty normal. So most Japanese train stations, exits are either named something significant, so it's like the east exit, main exit, or the name of a major landmark. But if it's a minor exit, like in this case where it has a bunch of exits on crossroads, they'll just use an exit code instead. So the signs won't have a mix or a big mess of all of these like street names, they'll just be organized based on number. Exits here use the standardized color, yellow. It's not just the Tokyo Metro, at least the JR stations here seem to use them as well. Other cities also use it, so it seems like it's like a standardized, expected thing that exits are colored yellow, which means it's really, you kind of just get used to it. Like, you don't have to like learn that this means, like yellow means exit, you just get used to the fact that it's associated with it, and it makes it a lot easier to find on the signs. And it goes a bit further, like on the actual trains themselves, the ones, at least the ones that have digital displays, they'll show a breakdown of the platform before the train arrives. And if there's separate sets of stairs, they'll show you where the exits are located, organized by the specific exit you might be going to.
We will be stopping at number M20. Passengers will transfer here to the Sennichimae line, Kiketsu line, Nankai line, and Hanshin line.
But if you don't know the name of your exit, like if you weren't using Google Maps, they do have these exit information display boards on the platform and in the station, so you just get out, you go to the sign here, and it'll show you the list of all of the exits and which way to go, what you'll find at those exits, and sometimes even a map telling you where those exits will go to. So you don't, it works for both type of users, those who know their exit and those that don't know their exit. All of these systems come together to make a really cohesive system that's easy to use, whether you're local or a tourist, or whether you speak Japanese or you don't. The system just works. So other transit systems across the world have figured this out as well. It's not just Japan. They've kind of implemented parts of what I just explained here. So one of my favorite transit systems is TfL, Transport for London, and their design system is amazing. It just looks really good. But yeah, in terms of exits, they use the color yellow. So they don't call them exits, they call them way out. But they do use the standardized color yellow. Larger stations do have the exits sorted by number. And they have these exit boards that explain where the different exits are, and yeah, what you'll find for each one. So that's pretty cool. TMB in Barcelona has digital displays on their trains, which is pretty cool, and it shows you the direction of the nearby exits and transfer information. But then the actual exit signs don't really have that high contrast compared to the rest of the signs, which isn't really that great. RATP in Paris uses exit codes on their trains, but they don't really have that high contrast. So they make them in blue, but they don't really stand out that much compared to the other information. And the digital screens, at least, don't seem to show exit information on them. STM in Montreal was pretty interesting because they do have a different color for exits, but they don't use yellow, they use red, and they use letters instead of numbers. But this does seem to work pretty okay. And they do have these cool exit boards on the stations that point towards the direction of exits. And they have a map, but it's an exterior map. It doesn't really show you how to get around within the station. But they do have a really cool system for numbering elevators. It's so good to use when you have something like a suitcase or you're not able to use the stairs or escalators. So it's interesting how these different systems tackle the same problem in different ways. In my opinion, it's not as good as the wayfinding here in Japan, but please let me know how your city does it. I'm curious if any of these elements like exit codes or consistent colors, interior station maps, etc., how your local city does it. Let's jump back to Toronto for a sec. Why is it so bad? So it seems like there is some attempt to change it. Metrolinx is the agency that oversees public transportation operations in the Greater Toronto Area. They've created these standards, and it's up to the agencies whether or not they actually apply them. And in Toronto's case, they're not really applying them, although there are some changes happening. But even if they did adopt the new wayfinding standards with Metrolinx, it wouldn't really solve all of the problems. You just have to go to a station that's operated by Metrolinx to see this, like a GO Transit station or Union Station in Toronto that uses, where all the signs use the new standards. You'll find that they don't use exit codes. They still rely on long descriptive names in some cases. There isn't a high visual contrast in regard to the rest of the information. So the little pictogram does use yellow, but it's such a tiny little detail that it doesn't really have high contrast. So it doesn't really solve that problem. The interior maps they're not really that good. Actually, just a side point on this 3D maps, Ottawa uses them as well, and they're just, I don't understand how this is supposed to help someone. It's so difficult to orient yourself in relationship to the map to try to figure out how to get up or down or whatever. Like, I don't know who's designing these things, but yeah, they're terrible. Please just use simple 2D maps, please. And the most frustrating part of all of this is that, like, I cannot kind of understand stations like Union that naturally it's going to be a bit confusing, but for smaller stations like St. Patrick's, there's just no excuse to get this wrong. Like, I'm no wayfinding expert, but if you were to use the new Metrolinx signage, with some changes, you could incorporate exit codes, you could increase the amount of contrast, you can implement those interior station maps, and I think you can make it a lot easier to navigate, and it would scale to other stations as well, but just a thought. So I try to end the video off with some kind of call to action or something you can do to improve wayfinding in your city and, talk about why it's so important, but I think in this case it really is just like, we just need to talk about it. I think most people don't really think about the details of wayfinding, so just you being aware of this is important. But yeah, as with most issues in design, like, you don't really notice good design unless you are like a designer. You notice bad design, but now that I've pointed some of these things out, maybe you can be aware of these too. Thanks for watching.